Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to have a good yap about my time with the Battlefield 6 beta. Now, I had the early access, watched some stuff on Twitch whenever they did the multiplayer reveal, and basically was playing it all day yesterday. As of the time we're recording, today's Friday. Thursday is the first day it was available, and I basically played it for 12 hours in one day. So, needless to say, you know, no matter what way this video ends up coming off, I had a good time with that beta, and I'm excited to see what the game does. Of course, as you really shouldn't with any game, really. Don't pre-order, because we all know what happens in the past, or we all know what happened in the past with 2042. And Battlefield does not have a good history of launching in a great state, so... But I will say this beta has kind of alleviated some of those issues, not enough to make it, let's all turn around on that pre-order, which, as an aside, is just one of those, funny things. I find it very funny that the Battlefield community, of all things, is the one that has kind of adopted the don't pre-order mantra. When there's that should just be a general mantra that, you'd live by, don't pre-order your games, because then you're basically saying to companies, you've already got my money, But that aside, the beta. Let's have a talk about that. So, few maps, 3 maps, small maps. I'm hoping these are going to be the exception and not the rule when it comes to Battlefield map sizes, because these maps are very small. Very, very small. I'm hoping that these will be the small maps of the game. My personal theory as to why these are the maps that we're getting is that because games like Call of Duty, for example, are in a bit of a slow state at the moment. General sentiment towards Black Ops 6 seems to be quite poor at the minute. And even the sentiment toward the new COD, which is unusual, I would say, for the COD community. Usually it's, oh, this COD, I'm over it. Can't wait for the new one, though. Because, that then it'll be, good old COD again. But even that sentiment seems gone. No, I don't really tend to see much excitement about the next one coming either. So I feel like now's a really good time for Battlefield to kind of swoop in, capture a big chunk of audience. And I feel like that's kind of what they're doing with this beta a little bit. I feel like they've handpicked these maps specifically for that crowd, so you can jump into this beta and not have to experience one of the gripes I would hear from non-Battlefield players, not specifically COD, but just non-Battlefield players. And that's that, you run around on a big map for 10 minutes, get shot in the back, and then you spawn and have to do it all over again. Even though that's one of those things that once you play the game, this happens less and less often, and you start learning, you can spawn in all these different places, and you start learning the flow of the map, and then this becomes not an issue. But for new players, it's certainly a thing. So I can understand the idea behind that complaint. But I have a feeling these maps were picked to allure to the audiences of games that don't have such big maps. So I'm hoping, like I said, that these are not going to be... that maybe these are the 3 small maps, and then after that there's they're all massive, typical Battlefield. Not to say I don't like the more infantry, urban-based maps and stuff like that. Some of my favorites from the Battlefield series are these kind of maps, but they have to have a good mix, And these feel very infantry-dominated. You get into the fight against each other, really fast. And, yeah, it's just not what I'm looking for when it comes to Battlefield. A nice change of pace, maybe. Every now and again, playing the small map, have a bit more of a focused action experience. Sure, go for that. But I want the big maps to be the real deal. So that's probably one of my biggest criticisms with this beta, is the maps. My biggest criticism, though, my biggest one, is I really, really wish they would not be playing around with this idea of all the classes getting access to all the guns. I think this is some kind of weird half measure after Battlefield 2042, where they had the hero stuff, or the operators, or whatever they called them. They didn't have the 4 classes. I know they added them in later, but at launch. And I believe they could use all the guns. Some of them had their own unique stuff going on, like equipment and gear and shit like that, but I think it feels like some kind of weird half measure. If you're going back to the 4 classes, I think taking away the weapon locked or the class locked guns dilutes their identity too much. And the time that I really noticed this, because I had that thought in theory whenever I first heard about this. It was one of my concerns, but I was kind of open minded to it. I was like, okay, I'll wait to see what the beta's like, and then we'll see. And the part that kind of made me go like, okay, I definitely do not like this idea. Is you can play in the beta, you can play Conquest, but you can also play like weapon or class locked Conquest. So I played the normal or the open Conquest where all the classes can use all the guns. And I had a thought where I was playing Assault and I was using the Assault rifle and I was running around. It was alright, you know, it's whatever. Having a good time, shooting guns, exploring the maps. And then I had a thought, I want to try out an I want to try out an SMG or an LMG. And I just had that realization of, oh, I could just equip one on this class and just start using it right now. And it took away some of that fun of like, oh, you know, I'm going to play support for a bit. And, you know, I'll play as a support and that'll be my play style for while I'm using the LMGs and stuff. I'll be supporting people. And it was just like, no, you're Assault. So just take the LMG. And I know it's like one of those you control the buttons you press things, but incentivizing players to do stuff like this helps in the grander scheme of the game, in my opinion. It's kind of like micro versus macro. Like on a micro scale, you being able to choose whatever gun you want, whenever you want, on whatever class, might seem more appealing to some people, and it might seem like, oh, you're giving players more freedom. But on the macro scale of like how the entire game ends up playing out, I feel like, you know, it's just, you're going to see less of the classes running around. Because you're going to see people just stick to one class that they know works for them, and they're never going to swap. And that, like, even when they're trying to do their progression through the game, and they're trying to get, like, maybe they're trying to do all the attachments for all the guns and stuff, like, you could do that while all on the same class. And that, to me, just doesn't sit right. It's not Battlefield. It's the same as whenever they added the operators to 2042. It's just not Battlefield, in my opinion. Now, is this the end of the world if they were to decide to leave all the classes with all the guns? No. It's just a big sticking point for me, and I would imagine quite a few sort of Battlefield, experienced Battlefield players. New players, it's hard to say how they're going to feel on it. Especially if they're coming from something like COD, which doesn't really have roles. You know, if they're coming from other games that have roles, like, you know, if you're coming from like a hero shooter, for example, and, you know, you've got a tank, a DPS, and a healer, like, you're already used to the idea of certain, you know, there's only certain guns or certain abilities within these certain role types and stuff like that. So I feel like I could see them coming in and being like, yeah, I like the idea of the classes having more identity, you know. Basically, that's what that is what it boils down to. Is I want the classes to have their identity. I don't want the identity of these classes just being what equipment they bring. I want it to be what guns they can use. When I see someone who is a support, I want to know what type of guns they could have. You know, it's one of those things as well. Like, helps with that idea. You see someone who's an assault class, you know they've got an assault rifle, or at least most likely will. Because obviously there can be some overlap with weapons that are a bit more specific, like shotguns, DMRs, and SMGs, or carbines, I think, in this, in the beta. Like, those guns aren't as good generally across the map, so I think those are fine. Because those are to make your class slightly lean. Like, if you want to play a recon, but you don't want to snipe, so you take a carbine. Your carbine is not as good at medium range as the assault class's assault rifles, and it's not as good at close range as the engineer's SMGs. So you're not as good, but you're still a recon who can operate in a bit more of a close range scenario. So I don't mind there being a little bit in there to overlap and give classes a bit more options to play. But at their core, I still want their identity weapons to be what those classes are, if that makes sense. Along with their equipment. It's not just the guns. It's the whole part of the package. But the guns are obviously a major part of that package, so taking that away would be very sad. But yeah, that's my major gripe with the beta so far, and that's pretty much all my criticisms. I can't really think of anything else that I would sort of say that I look at and go, that is bad. You know, there's a couple of bugs, but none of them were like crazy bad. Every now and again, I would just bounce off terrain for some reason and just do like it was like a triple height jump. It was crazy. Occasionally it would get me killed. It's a little bit annoying, but other than that, it's like visual bug here and there. Nothing too crazy. There's an infinite loading screen bug, but that's like definitely one of those, like that's getting sorted before the game comes out. There's no way that's in there. But to speak on the positives, the game runs like an absolute dream. Like, I think everyone is very well aware at this point that the Frostbite engine is an absolute monster when it comes to optimization and looking really good. This game, one of the biggest sort of strong points I can give this game is this game looks gorgeous, and it doesn't have any of the modern sort of drawbacks that usually come with really, really good like looking graphics. And that is, this game is really like crystal clear. It's sharp as hell. And normally, whenever I'm playing, now this would be mostly from like single player games, so maybe it's a whole different ball game, maybe. But there aren't really many other games that are looking this good that are also a multiplayer game, so it's hard to weigh those two things up. But generally, when it comes to these games that are like pushing the boundaries of how games look, and I think Battlefield is doing that, maybe not on like the individual texture level, but on the scale of it all, and it running so well is the most impressive part. It's kind of crazy, but it's blurriness, essentially what it is. A lot of games will look really, really good up close, but see when you start like getting the whole picture in, the game can almost look like kind of blurry. And it's usually like some kind of TAA, maybe some upscaling, like maybe some other stuff. And it could just be that my eyes are more sensitive to this, and maybe other people don't really care. Maybe this is something most people really haven't noticed, but I notice it a lot, and it really annoys me whenever I'm playing a game, and it feels like I'm constantly having to like focus my eyes because the trees and bushes over there in the distance are just slightly blurry. And it's just a constant thing that I notice. Really, really annoys me. This game, the beta at least, does not have this at all. The game is super sharp, so sharp, and it looks gorgeous. And it's probably one of the best things I could say about it. The other thing that I really like is the gameplay. The actual gameplay, gunplay is really, really solid so far, from what I understand. Or from what I've experienced, not from what I understand. The guns feel really good. Recoil on like 99% of the guns I've used so far has felt pretty like, okay, yeah, there's some good recoil there, you know, I gotta control that, or I gotta build, you know, around that for my attachments and stuff. The only gun I found that was like, okay, this gun has no recoil, was like a carbine. I think it's like the AK carbine version or something. But those guns have less damage, so it wasn't like I have found the broken meta gun that now everyone will use type thing. So yeah, gunplay feels really good. The new attachment system is very interesting. This like pick 10 system on steroids, the pick 100 system, I think is a good idea on paper. I'd have to see how it plays out once we have more guns and more attachments and stuff. But I like the idea of it allows you to individually balance attachments essentially. You can just go like, hey, this attachment is like really good, everyone's using it, bump its points up, so you have to make more sacrifices to your gun to be able to use it. It's a really good system in that way, quite elegant in that regard. So, really like the gunplay. The guns feel really good. Audio design, of course. I mean, it's a Battlefield game. Even the worst Battlefield games have incredible audio design. It's just... It's like one of the laws of Battlefield. It will have great audio. Although, I will say, I still don't think Battlefield audio has gotten better since Bad Company 2. It's all still been incredible, don't get me wrong, but Bad Company 2's audio, something about it, disgustingly good. Just the sound of like a tank firing its cannon right next to you. Oh my god, incredible. Incredible stuff. Enough about Bad Company 2. Even though, actually, I think it was Vince Zampella said that Bad Company 2 is actually a big inspiration for Battlefield 6. Well, he said Battlefield 3, 4, and Bad Company 2, but, you know, I'm mainly looking at the Bad Company 2 because that's my favorite Battlefield and probably favorite multiplayer game of all time. Probably. Yeah, really, really good. Love the actual gunplay. I did actually think about another slight gripe with the game. This will be more. We'll need to see how the game does on release to see how this really impacts things. But on paper, it's a bit of a blow to the community aspect of Battlefield, and that is no server browser. I think this is the first one that won't have a server browser. At least on PC. I know some of the console ones didn't. But not being able to like set up servers and like stay, like just get used to that server, and then like people keep coming back to it that you know all the time, and then you can almost like build a community around the server. That was like a really fun part of the game, like when you started like really getting into the cycle of the game and stuff. You know, you kept coming back, you join the same server, you meet the same people, you have a good time. Really like that. That seems to be gone. It's just now random matchmaking, which seems to be the way a lot of modern multiplayer shooters are going these days, unfortunately. If I had to guess, put my tinfoil hat on, I think it's some SBMM thing, you know. It's so they can control lobbies better for people, so that the average player has a better time. But that's can't really confirm that sort of thing, but just it sort of feels like that's kind of where that's coming from and where that's going. Other than that, let's see what else we got. The classes, some slight changes. The assault class can now carry like 2 primaries. So instead of like a piece of equipment that the other classes would get, the assault class can take like an extra gun. But to kind of balance that out, they have really low ammo supply, which I quite like. I like the assaults having low ammo and no way to resupply themselves. Unless they like pick up a class from someone they've killed, for example, but then you might switch into recon and have a sniper rifle, and then your whole plan's out the window potentially. But the two guns thing is interesting. A lot of shotgun users. Shotguns are very good. But they weren't as oppressive as I thought they were going to be, to be honest. Whenever I first saw those shotguns getting used in the multiplayer reveal trailer, I thought shotguns were going to be everywhere. We were going to have a Battlefield 3 USAS with frag rounds type situation, you know, where shotguns were just everywhere. But really, like, you only see them in places that it would make sense for a shotgun to be, like in the buildings and stuff. So that didn't turn out to be like a major problem. So I don't mind the assault having the 2 guns with the low ammo. At the minute, obviously, I've played one very long day of Battlefield, essentially. Whenever people start figuring out, like, what makes for the best setups and people start, like, optimizing the fun out, you know, like that sort of scenario, which Battlefield is a bit more resistant to just because of the amount of players in any one lobby. Like, one player can't have as big a impact and stuff, which is one of the fun parts about Battlefield. So it might not be that big of an issue. It could just be speculation on my part, but we'll see. We'll see what has to happen there. Engineer class is pretty much unchanged from what you'd expect. RPGs, anti-air stuff, repair tools, anti-tank. There's a weird anti-tank mine thing that, like, it's like a bouncing Betty. It launches up and like fires at them. It's pretty cool. Thought that was going to be used a lot more, but didn't really. I don't think I've seen one of them even go off. Well, I've seen one go off, actually, but I don't think I've seen any kill from that. Which, again, in the multiplayer reveal, I thought that thing would be used like everywhere because it seems so strong. Yeah, so engineer's pretty good. Same old, same old. Support. My beloved support, which is now It's kind of gone back to the Bad Company 2 idea, where support is the LMG class. And they're also giving out, and it's kind of like a mixture. They've taken the fact that there used to be a class that give out ammo, and there used to be a class that give out health. Now the support puts down a bag that gives out both. And if you're just in the radius, you get healing and you get ammo back. So that's interesting. I don't actually mind that change. I think that's pretty good, to be honest. Makes the support class extremely desirable to have on your team. Because especially like assaults, they need that ammo. And everyone needs health. So really like that change, actually. And then the recon is a sniping class, you know, as it is. Sniping and spawning. So it seems pretty good. You got your C4, you know, slap it on the front of your Jeep and go crazy. There is one thing with the classes, though, that's a little bit different. Maybe I missed this in 2042, maybe. I'm unsure if they had a similar system to this. But your classes have, like, this tiered passive abilities that as you play and, like, earn score, it will get stronger. So, like, the engineer at the first level of theirs gets 2 extra rockets to carry around. And then, like, becomes more efficient at repairing. And then I think the last one is that their rockets do more damage or something like that to vehicles, or they make repairing of a vehicle they've hit less efficient for a bit. Stuff like that. The one that's a little bit weird is at the end, once you've gotten like to your top level of that, you get this like repeatable, activatable ability that you get to use. So like the assault class gets like a super stim that kind of gives them like heightened awareness of their surroundings. The engineer gets like a super blowtorch that heals vehicles like really fast. It doesn't last that long. Snipers get like a little UAV that like covers their area for a bit and like tells them where people are. It's weird. I don't hate it initially. When I first saw it, I hated it. I had like a knee-jerk reaction of, I don't like that. But now that I've played it and actually used it, none of them seem particularly broken or obnoxious and stuff. But it's one of those things that's like kind of hard to tell because Battlefield is such a big game that it's like, do you really know what you died to there? Like, it could have been one of those things. Like, who knows? There's a lot of ways to spot in this game. So I hope that doesn't destroy, like, you know, flanking gameplay and stuff like that, for example. But yeah, I think other than that, I suppose vehicles. I haven't had too much experience with the vehicles. I'm generally not a vehicle guy, so I can't really speak too much to that. But I haven't noticed tanks, but at least on the receiving end, I haven't noticed tanks being too, like, oppressive. Helicopters and jets, haven't really noticed them being too oppressive. They seem pretty good, but not, like, crazy. But then again, you know, maybe I just haven't been in a server with a player who absolutely no-lifes them and, you know, owns a lobby with them, sort of thing. I will say, the machine gun turret on the top of the American stuff that has the 50 cal, that thing is rotten. That thing is disgustingly good. That will be getting nerfed. Like, on PC, because there's no rotational slowdown with mouse and keyboard, like, you can just snap to people, and they're dead in, like, 2 shots. The only saving grace is to be really far away from it, or just not even near it. I'm actually more scared of that turret than I am, like, the cannon, which is quite funny. But yeah, let's see, anything else? Oh yes, they're going to add a new game mode to this Battlefield. We haven't seen it yet. I'm predicting they're going to add it at some point for one of the open betas, maybe during this weekend, or maybe during the next weekend, but it's some kind of like... there's objectives going on around the map, and as the match progresses, it kind of focuses these objectives more toward a central point, and then the game becomes more like action focused on this middle area. I feel like they're doing that to try to appeal to both sides of a potential modern day Battlefield audience, which is, hey, look, you get the big map with all the objectives for the people who originally like Battlefield and that sort of style. And then at the end, you've got the really condensed, like, focused action mode for the maybe new style of Battlefield fan, or like some fans from other games and stuff that are more used to smaller maps and faster action and stuff like that. So I'll have to see how that plays out. That could be very good. That could be very good. Also, they haven't put Rush in the beta yet, and they need to give me Rush, because I love Rush. It's the best game mode. I love Rush. Bad Company 2 being my favorite Battlefield, that should be no surprise to anyone ever. Rush is just incredible, especially when the maps are designed for Rush specifically, like in Bad Company 2. Oh my god, what a game mode. But yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to cover. Just wanted to give a little bit of discussion, my thoughts, my feelings on this beta. Maybe I'll have a totally different opinion by the time the second beta weekend is done. Once they've added a few more things in and we get some more time with it. I just want to see. I want to see the bigger maps, but I'm optimistic about this Battlefield. It looks like they're trying quite hard to make this one really, really good. But that doesn't mean go out and pre-order it because we've seen what happens before. I am cautiously optimistic. It's fun, but we have to. We don't know enough yet. We don't know enough. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening to my thoughts and feelings about the Battlefield 6 beta. And I will see you guys on the next video. Goodbye.